who are undergoing a case. So what we do now since September is we actually endorse cases directly to the Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs, and we also personally assist them there. It's been a big help, but it's also a help in a way that the ministry now realizes how how big our role is and how many cases we actually have to handle. So this coming Sunday, we'll have a meeting again with the higher ups, and we will try to make an assessment of what has happened since September. How many cases have actually been resolved and have been settled. So uh, we have actually endorsed more than 200 cases. So we'll try to see how many of these have been actually resolved and what other systems we have. While we were driving on our way to church here, my driver told me, like only a few years ago, 2015 or 13, this place was really like a few buildings, desert, but only a few years. After a few years, it's all pavement, it's all buildings, and things that really happen so fast, like the message of our dear pastor from the Philippines. It happened so fast. We don't know by that time we're already 70 or we only have a few years to live. But as the days go by and as there are so many changes, maybe let's try also to influence those changes. Like for example, we have a new law. We have a new immigration law, Law 21. But we've been coordinating with the ministries here, and until now we have not received the implementing guidelines. They're also adjusting. So at the same time, we'll have a series of meetings with them. We'll try to influence them also in the best way we can. Like for example, the employment contract, the terms of the contract, but also in your role, in all of our roles, when things changes so fast, let's try to influence things for the better. So and not leave it at what it is. There's a new law also that was signed by the cabinet, but I don't know at what stage after the signing. A law, it's very welcome news because it's a law that covers domestic workers now. So it's a surprise, but we have not received the particulars of the law. So when we get that, we want to influence also how it is, how do we make it better, because they're also adjusting how do we do things. But let me just say this, we've received many calls for workers who wish to transfer to new employers, or let me just give this as simple tips like a contract. A contract is a contract between the employer and the employee, which should be a mutual agreement. So there are two kinds. One is a specific contract, one is a unlimited contract. So if you may have a 1-year contract, you may have a 2-year contract, that's a specific contract. And then there are others who sign an unlimited contract that's supposed to be for 5 years. So what the ministry advised us is that if you wish not to continue with your present existing contract, if your contract is for 2 years, then you should advise your employer in writing that you will not renew your contract 1 month ahead if your contract is for a specific contract. Okay? Not to resign. The word is not resign. It's different to resign. It's not renewing your contract. But if your contract is for 5 years or unlimited, you should notify your employer 2 months before, right? Writing. Okay? Unless, of course, otherwise stipulated in the contract that you hold that you have to do it earlier or you have to do it this way. So you always go to the terms of your contract. And we receive calls that if you do still have an existing contract and your company or your management goes to you and asks you to sign a new contract, make an assessment first before you sign. Are the terms better? Because if not, then you can actually explain very cautiously that you still have a contract. And according to the Ministry of Labor is that it has to be a mutual agreement. So if you have an existing contract, then you cannot be forced to sign. So yun lang po yung small something before just to make an announcement. Another thing is the United Philippine Organization Qatar made a support letter only last week, wrote to the president, and they had a resolution and sent it to the president, supporting the requests of the embassy, the Philippine Overseas Labor Office, for a lawyer that will cover labor cases. But we want to have a retainer, not just with a lawyer, but with a law firm. Another one is we want to have a retainer, not just with a translator, but with a translation office. Because it's marami pong dokumento that when you go to court or when you go even to a quasi-judicial institution, you need to prepare documents. And sometimes you don't need a lawyer. You need in such a short time, you need to have this all translated properly, so that when our workers go there, they just present this. So we need a retainer with a translator. We need more staff at the Philippine Overseas Labor Office, case officers. We are undermanned day to day. So we need other funds, not from anybody else, but from the government, to take care of the costs like court fees and other fees for those who are pursuing their cases. So there's a lot to do. So let's pray for that they approve this in time. So little by little po, so that when we leave this place, yung mga susunod na official will have an easier time or have a boost in helping more people. So, Mr. Jan, thank you po for your church, for the BBC. Happy anniversary, and we hope to have a stronger partnership in the years to come. Salamat.
Our labor officer mentioned about the small space, yung kitchen nila. Can you imagine? 100 people, ganun lang kalit yung space. When we were talking, he made mention na yung project. I said, how much would it cost? He said, maybe around 5,000. And I think it's a good project for BBC. Na sagutin na natin yung 5,000 para maayos na rin yung kalagayan ng ating mga kababayan doon. Amen? If you agree, raise your hand. Those who do not agree, no lunch. Okay, so anybody who doesn't agree? Okay, we can give that to him anytime. And we should help them. The Bible says, be not weary in well-doing, but in due season, and then be not weary in due season, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. As ye have done for opportunity, let us do good unto all men. And speaking of needing more manpower, my daughter is coming in. She's looking for a job. Maybe she can have a job there.
Amen.
So that when we need something, we'll just ask Don to do it for us. Depende yan sa Panginoon if it is the Lord's will or not. Okay. Are you very hungry now? Be honest, be honest. I don't think you're hungry because you're not answering me. Or maybe you're a very humble servant of the Lord. And to our honorable labor attaché from the Philippines, David Dikan, so would you come? And a friend of BBC, I'm telling you, I'm blessed to have. Kayong mga Pilipino, makinig kayo. Ito yung ating labor attaché. Napaka-ordinary na tao, napaka-humble, pero siya yung ating labor attaché rito. And ako, testimony ako kung paano siya magtrabaho, and I praise God that God has given us such a wonderful person. And you know what I like about him? Same, okay? Okay, no tall trees here, okay? So I feel so much at home here. Like, sir.
Pastor Jan D. Narvaez, I'm little taller than you. Pastor Gilbert Tuquero and family, for a missionary, Daryl Boto, and my fellow followers of Christ, good afternoon. Firstly, I would just like to warmly and heartily greet you in your 6th happy birthday of BBC. Happy birthday to all of you. I was here during your 5th birthday. So I think when Pastor John was mentioning that I was here 4 times, I think he was in our place 10 times at the Philippine Overseas Labor Office. But I would also like to take this opportunity to share a few things, a few announcements. First of all, I shared this with missionary Darrell when he was in the office. We hope to transfer to a new site. The Philippine Overseas Labor Office Processing Office hopes to transfer to a new site at West Bay at the Al Jazeera Tower at the 20th floor by mid of March. Or we hope, please pray for us, pray that we could transfer on time because of the many things that we have to do to prepare, fit in stuff to that office. But like I told your pastor earlier, we will retain the existing polo as the Migrant Workers and Other Overseas Filipino Resource Center to continue to serve our less fortunate brothers and sisters and to make it as a training institution. And let's pray that when the lease ends, the lease agreement ends, we can transfer that place, we can transfer also to a bigger place where we can also have continuing service and service that we do for our brothers and sisters, not only for the physical needs, but also for, more importantly, our spiritual needs for them. Which brings me to the point that your church has been a very big support to our office and to many people for ever since I assumed my post as labor attaché here. And I know that even before I arrived, you were already helping us, but I've seen it with my own eyes. Only last, I don't know, a few days ago when we were talking with Pastor John, I was that same day or that the few days before that, I was thinking of when we move out, how best can we beautify that place. And Pastor John offhand was already offering his help, but he mentioned other stuff, and I said, there are other things to do, like put up, like if you see in that small place where we feed more than 100 people every day, not only 3 times a day, there's this very small kitchen space, like only 3 people could fit, but that's where they cook their food. So I know now that your church will be instrumental in will be very instrumental in building the other room as a bigger kitchen and washing space. Small things but big things for them. So when we free up space in the old space, it will be more convenience for our less fortunate sisters who are there. I also mentioned to Pastor John that we still help other people outside, not only those who are inside. There are brothers and sisters who actually pursue their case at the higher labor court, at the Ministry of Labor, so there's a lot to do. And we are happy that we have strengthened our networks with you, with the United Philippine Organizations in Qatar, the Philippine Professional Organization. All of them, they are helping in a way that's more systematic. So we praise the Lord. A few announcements more. Last September of 2016,